In the morning, citizens. Welcome to today's news and guidance show for Friday, October 17th, 2025. Coming at you live from the Thessaloniki, Greece. Let's look at today's items. Thanks to all the producers out there and family pets, especially Juno, who we called Judo on accident earlier, our bad bro.
Good morning. Yeah, looking forward to this one. We're definitely embarking on a pretty high-stakes deep dive today.
Absolutely. We've got a huge stack of sources.
We really do. We're integrating quite a lot, moving from the immediate, local stuff right here in Greece.
Yeah, the instability here.
Exactly. Then zooming out to the kind of paralysis gripping global politics right now.
Which seems quite significant.
Oh, it is. And then diving deep into the really critical vulnerabilities in our digital world, our infrastructure.
Okay, so what's the goal here? Just recap the news.
Not just recap. Our core mission really is to go beyond summarizing. We want to extract the fundamental patterns. Where are things going wrong? Where are they going right?
Spotting the trends.
Spotting the trends, exactly. And we're going to filter everything through our thematic guide for the day.
Which is?
A really powerful ancient proverb. It's almost like a diagnostic tool for these kinds of systemic breakdowns. We're specifically looking for the cost, the price paid, when necessary instruction is just ignored.
Okay, ignoring instructions. Got it. So where do we start? Right here.
Let's start local with Thessaloniki.
Okay, let's unpack this local snapshot of Thessaloniki then. It's our immediate backdrop, right? And the sources, they paint this really interesting, almost contradictory picture.
They really do. You've got the city trying to modernize, pushing forward fast.
Ambitious progress, yeah.
But at the same time, it's wrestling with these really acute, really fundamental problems, security, infrastructure.
Yeah, it's a real study in contrast, progress versus, persistent peril, as you put it.
And that tension. It's immediate. Look at the security situation. We've got reports of fire, a suspicious one, at a municipal building.
Authorities suspect arson, right?
Strongly suspected, yeah. Which points towards, deliberate criminal action. Trying to disrupt public services, maybe infrastructure. It's serious.
And that doesn't just happen in isolation, does it?
No, definitely not. It links directly to the ongoing kind of grinding efforts to actually curb organized crime in this area.
Right, like that arrest you mentioned, the 26-year-old.
Exactly. The arrest of that young man in the western suburbs. Illegal weapons, drug charges.
Yeah.
It's specific, it's recent. It shows authorities are fighting on two fronts.
Okay, so large-scale stuff like potential arson and then the day-to-day street-level crime.
Right. Trying to prevent major destruction while also dealing with these entrenched criminal networks that just undermine everyone's safety.
And then alongside all that insecurity, you've got these huge promises about infrastructure.
Yes, the Thessaloniki Metro being the big one.
The Calamari extension. That's good news, isn't it?
Yeah.
Set for Q1 2026.
Huge news for northern Greece, yeah. It promises significantly better connectivity, easing congestion. It's a major step forward.
And there's always a but, isn't there?
Well, the journey to that promise, as you say, is marked by some real pain points for commuters right now.
Okay, so what's the duality here? We've got the future launch, but
the system, right now, is showing signs of extreme fragility. It's not just hypothetical. There's a planned month-long closure coming up.
November 10th to December 10th, just for testing.
Just for essential system testing ahead of that Calamaria launch, which, is a necessary instruction. Maintenance is key. But it causes huge disruption.
A whole month.
And then on top of that inconvenience,
don't tell me,
there was an unscheduled failure. The whole system just stopped. Temporarily, yes, but due to a technical glitch.
Oh, brilliant. Just what commuters need.
Well, exactly. And when a complex system like that halts unexpectedly, it's more than just an inconvenience, right? It shows the system, despite all the ambition, despite the future potential, it's operating too close to the edge. Very fragile. It suggests that maybe the instruction, the really fundamental instruction of routine, deep preventative maintenance, maybe that's getting sidelined a bit by the pressure to hit those expansion deadlines.
That fragility seems to mirror the social tensions, too. The sources mentioned protests.
Yeah, protests in Thessaloniki, also in Athens, following the anniversary of that awful Tempe train disaster.
And these weren't just quiet gatherings.
No, reports mentioned clashes with police, and the protesters, their demands weren't about, fancy new tech. They were demanding accountability.
Right, and safety reform.
Enhanced safety reforms. It's a direct call for the political system to actually heed the instruction, the hard lesson delivered by that past tragedy. Don't let it happen again.
So they're demanding the government not err again, basically.
Precisely. And this demand for order, for accountability, it even filters down to, well, modern nuisances, like e-scooters.
Ah, yes, the scooter menace. Everywhere these days.
Ubiquitous, yeah. And they cause real problems, street clutter, accidents.
So what did Thessaloniki do?
The authorities had to step in, issue a really specific granular instruction. They cracked down, ordered the rental companies, you need designated parking spots.
Specific spots. How many scooters?
Up to 800 scooters by early September. It's that constant struggle, managing the impact of new tech on the actual physical city.
Always playing catch up. And speaking of tech, let's pivot to the more forward-looking stuff happening here.
Okay, yeah. The economy, technology, that got a big spotlight at the Thessaloniki International Fair, the TIFF.
That's a big deal annually, right?
Huge economic event. Prime Minister Mitsotakis was there, outlining national economic priorities. But the real headline, the big commitment to the future.
Let me guess, AI.
You got it. The high-profile AI partnership signed with OpenAI.
Wow, okay. That's significant for Greece. What's the plan?
The focus is on integrating AI tools across two really crucial sectors. First, schools shaping how the next generation learns.
And second,
Small and medium enterprises, SMEs, boosting their digital skills, their efficiency. SMEs are the backbone of the Greek economy, so this is potentially huge.
so a clear top-level instruction. Embrace the digital future. Adopt AI.
Explicitly, yes.
But here's the thing that strikes me, the contrast. You've got this bold visionary instruction, integrate AI everywhere, yet the physical infrastructure that's supposed to support all this, the metro, it stops unexpectedly. System failure. Municipal buildings potentially targeted by arson.
It's a stark contrast.
So what does Thessaloniki as this kind of microcosm tell us about this global tendency maybe to chase the next shiny thing like AI?
While maybe neglecting the basics.
Exactly, while neglecting the foundational instructions, upkeep, security, maintenance.
I think it tells us that global urban centers, and probably governments too, are often much better at issuing new instructions for innovation.
Right.
Than they are at keeping the old established instructions, the ones about maintenance, accountability, just basic upkeep.
So the energy goes forward, but the foundations are shaky.
Exactly. The system becomes vulnerable from behind, essentially. It's like trying to implement, Web 3 thinking on what's basically Web 1 infrastructure.
Yeah.
The result, fragility. #Tag2, National and Global Snapshot, October 12th, 2025.
That idea, fragility, because of ignored instructions. That transitions us perfectly, actually. Let's broaden the view. The national and global picture around October 12th.
Okay.
And here, the political divides, the financial worries in, say, the U.S., they seem to reflect this wider global instability and, sadly, tragedy, too.
Yeah, the U.S. situation around that time really highlights the crippling effect of political paralysis. The big story was the continued funding standoff.
The government shutdown saga continues.
Dragging on. And it's not just, political maneuvering in D.C. The sources really emphasize the genuine financial anxiety this caused for hundreds of thousands of federal workers.
It's more than just anxiety, though, isn't it? It's actual harm. That story about the single mother in Colorado.
Devastating, yeah.
Having to raid her retirement savings just to cover bills because her government paycheck stopped.
It personalizes the crisis instantly. When political factions refuse that basic instruction compromise, manage the budget responsibly, the consequences fall directly on ordinary people. They're forced to basically dismantle their future financial security just to survive the present mess.
And the ripple effects spread out, hitting critical public services. Healthcare was a big one mentioned.
Deeply concerning, yes. The sources were pretty clear. If Congress fails to act on funding,
Costs go up.
Costs go up. Specifically, a dramatic increase in premiums for Affordable Care Act, the ACA, marketplaces.
So for millions of people relying on those subsidies.
Political inaction translates directly into higher personal costs, less accessible health care. It's a textbook example of policy failure causing direct suffering for citizens. Again, a failure to follow the instruction of responsible governance.
And there was also friction over federal power, wasn't there? Something about the National Guard.
Right. The administration vowing to keep fighting to send the federalized National Guard into Chicago.
But a court blocked it.
A federal appeals court in Illinois blocked it. So you've got this crucial constitutional fight brewing over the limits of executive power versus state or local control, particularly regarding law enforcement.
It often happens when local governance seems to be failing, right? The feds try to step in.
Exactly. And it leads to these clashes, often with the judiciary caught in the middle.
Okay, so from government paralysis, the sources then shifted pretty abruptly to just immediate, awful human tragedy.
They did. And it shows how quickly order can just collapse locally. That mass shooting at a bar on what was described as an idyllic South Carolina island.
4 dead, 20 injured, just heartbreaking.
It underscores a persistent failure sometimes to maintain basic civic safety.
And then there was that industrial disaster in Tennessee, an explosives factory.
Yeah, catastrophic. A blast just leveled the plant. Killed 16 people.
No survivors.
No survivors reported. And look, explosives factories operate under incredibly strict safety protocols. Those regulations, those instructions, they exist for a very good reason.
To prevent exactly this.
Precisely. So when you see a disaster on this scale, it immediately points towards a potential catastrophic breakdown in following those safety instructions. A failure in oversight? Maybe. A failure to adhere to the core rules designed specifically to prevent, well, complete annihilation.
Meanwhile, globally, tension's still high.
Very high. Geopolitically, yeah. In Asia, Afghanistan reported killing 58 Pakistani soldiers.
58? That's significant.
It's a major number. Afghanistan claimed it was a response to repeated territory and airspace violations by Pakistan. These border disputes, the instability there, it's deeply rooted. But killing dozens of soldiers isn't a minor skirmish.
It's a major escalation.
Huge escalation. Threatens regional peace. It screams for immediate diplomatic instruction, de-escalation talks, to stop it spiraling.
And elsewhere, the threat of trade wars still looms.
Oh, yeah. China signaling it wouldn't back down from President Trump's threat of 100% tariffs.
100%. That's massive.
It would be economically devastating. China's advocating for negotiation, sure, but just the threat of tariffs that high. It injects huge volatility into global markets, supply chains, consumer prices, everything.
Okay, so amidst all this friction, this tragedy, were there any glimmers of hope?
There were a couple of things. Positive signs regarding Gaza. Preparations reportedly underway to ramp up aid following a ceasefire.
That's good, and an end to that 2-year war.
Hope for an end, yeah. And plans for releasing Israeli hostages held in Gaza and Palestinian prisoners held in Israel. It shows that instruction, followed through negotiation, can actually lead somewhere positive.
Okay, good. And on a completely different note, culturally, a big loss.
Yes, the passing of Diane Keaton at 79.
An absolute icon. Annie Hall, The Godfather.
Exactly. Oscar winner. Known for that unique, quirky, vibrant style. Her collaborations with legendary directors Woody Allen, Coppola, Nancy Meyers.
Her passing really does feel like the end of an era in Hollywood, doesn't it?
It does. It reminds us to appreciate the enduring instructions of art, of storytelling, even amidst all the temporary chaos of politics and conflict.
So if we try to connect all these dots, the political stalemate causing financial pain, the violence, the industrial failures, the geopolitical hotspots.
What you see, I think, is they're all interconnected symptoms of underlying systemic failures.
And these failures often trace back to...
Often they trace back to a refusal, whether explicit or implicit, to heed established instructions. Instructions for compromise, for safety, for basic maintenance, for diplomacy. This idea, ignored instruction, it leads us directly into the digital realm.
Where the consequences are often instant.
Potentially massive,
yeah.
Yes. Hashtag Prante 3. Tech, security, and critical vulnerabilities. The digital deep dive.
Right. Let's shift gears then. Front lines of digital information security development. We're drawing heavily now from, Hacker News on October 17th and Western security alerts.
That's right. And in the digital world, that instruction, patch your systems, update your software, it's not abstract advice. It's immediate survival.
Okay, so what were the big trends on Hacker News? What are developers talking about?
Well, the top story, huge engagement, nearly 1,000 points, over 500 comments, was about a potential large-scale migration, moving from AWS.
The giant Amazon Web Services?
Yeah, moving away from AWS towards Hetzner, a German provider.
Interesting. Why the shift?
It's not just about those specific companies, I think. It signals this broader desire, maybe, for a great migration away from the hyperscalers, the huge cloud providers.
Yeah.
Developers seem to be actively looking for alternatives. Could be pricing fatigue, could be wanting more control.
Shows the infrastructure landscape isn't static. People vote with their feet or their code.
Exactly. And we also saw shifts in governance. The Ruby core team, Ruby, the programming language, they took ownership of Ruby Gems and Bundler.
Okay, what are those, and why does that matter?
Ruby Gems is the package manager. Bundler manages dependencies. They're fundamental tools for Ruby developers. So the core team taking them over, that signals consolidation, maybe more stability for that whole ecosystem. Who controls the tools? really defines the security posture for everything built with them.
Makes sense. Anything more concerning?
Well, yeah, the Amazon Ring partnership with Flock, that got a lot of points too.
Ring, the doorbell cameras, Flock, they do license plate readers.
Right. Flock cameras often use ALPR, automatic license plate recognition. So integrating Ring footage, essentially private home surveillance with these broader Flock systems.
Creates massive surveillance networks.
Decentralized ones, yeah.
Yeah.
Emerges private and semi-public data streams. It sparked a huge debate, obviously, about where public safety ends and private mass monitoring begins. Big implications.
Okay. Anything lighter? Please tell me there was something lighter.
There was, actually. A nice counterpoint. A story about a 4K room text adventure game.
Wow, old school, like Zork.
Exactly like that. Written by one single human. In QBasic.
QBasics,
Right.
Seriously. And the key point noted was no AI used in its creation. Got like 140 points, which in that high-tech community,
It's pretty good for something so deliberately retro.
it shows there's still this real appreciation for, the craft of coding, the creativity of one person working within constraints, deliberately refusing the instruction to automate everything.
I love that. Human ingenuity.
And then in classic Hacker News style, you get the really obscure academic stuff, too. There was an inquiry from a UCSD study asking whether lead exposure might have limited brain and language development in Neanderthals.
Wait, lead? In Neanderthal?
And other hominids. Yeah, it just emphasizes the sheer breadth of topics that community engages with.
Yeah.
From cutting-edge Linux kernel features to, ancient paleotoxicology. The curious mind is always looking for constraints, right? What shaped us.
Okay, fascinating range. But let's move from curiosity to, crisis sounds about right. The Western Security Alerts Index. Yes, strap in. This section is basically a catalog of organizations that, in one way or another, refuse the instruction to secure themselves properly.
And where do we start? The worst first.
Let's start with the absolute highest severity. Microsoft issued a patch, fixing the highest severity ASP.NET Core flaw ever recorded.
Ever. Okay, break that down. ASP.NET Core is what?
It's a foundational web framework. Millions of developers use it to build web applications, APIs, websites. It's everywhere. So a flaw of the highest severity ever means this wasn't some minor bug.
This sounds deep.
Deep within the core structure.
Yeah.
Giving attackers potentially catastrophic access to web servers running countless applications globally. It's about as bad as it gets for a web framework vulnerability.
And the scale of potential negligence, that Shadow Server Foundation finding.
Truly frightening, yes.
Yeah.
They discovered more than 266,000 F5 BIGIP instances exposed online.
Okay, hold on. 266,000. Expose. Explain what an F5 BIGIP instance is and why that number is so terrifying for security people.
Right, crucial context. F5 BGIP devices. Think of them as the main gateway, the traffic cops for huge networks. Enterprises, governments, massive websites rely on them. They're called application delivery controllers, or load balancers.
So they manage traffic, security, keep things running.
Exactly. They handle incoming traffic, distribute it, apply security rules, ensure applications stay available. They are the essential front door.
So 266,000 front doors just left wide open online.
Exposed online following a security breach disclosure by F5 itself. It means hundreds of thousands of organizations potentially had their core network access points vulnerable to remote exploitation because they demonstrably failed to heed the instruction to apply the patch F5 released.
It's an enterprise-level catastrophe just waiting to trigger.
On a massive scale, yeah.
And the criminals aren't amateurs either. That Europol operations SIM cartel
shows the sophistication of organized cybercrime. They dismantled this huge illegal SIM box service.
What exactly is a SIM box? Sounds technical.
Basically, it's hardware packed with hundreds, sometimes thousands, of local mobile SIM cards. Criminals use these boxes to route international phone calls, which are normally expensive, through these cheap local mobile networks.
Bypassing the expensive international carrier fees.
Exactly. Or using stolen identities to run up bills. They defraud telecom operators on a massive scale. The financial damage here was huge. Over 3,200 fraud cases identified. Losses of at least 4.5 million euros.
Wow, that takes coordination.
Significant coordination. It illustrates how professionalized this kind of fraud has become.
And then there were the big data breaches hitting consumers directly. Prosper.
Yeah, the Prosper data breach, impacting 17.6 million accounts. That's a huge number of individuals affected.
And Sotheby's, the auction house, also had a breach. What was different there?
Sotheby's specifically notified customers that the breach involved sensitive financial information.
Okay, so what's the difference in risk between, say, the Prosper breach and the Sotheby's one?
It matters for what the criminals can do next. A breach like Prosper's, hitting 17.6 million accounts, often involves personal identifiers, names, addresses, maybe account numbers, user profiles. That data fuels large-scale phishing campaigns, identity theft attempts down the line.
Building profiles for future fraud.
Right. The Sotheby's breach, though, specifying sensitive financial details that usually implies payment card numbers, bank account details, information that allows for direct, immediate financial exploitation.
So one fuels future crime, the other enables immediate theft. Got it.
Exactly. Both bad, but the immediate risk profile is different.
And all this seems to come back to our theme, right? Exploiting known weaknesses, like that ConnectWise fix.
Yes. ConnectWise had to fix a bug in their Automate product. Automate is used by IT providers to manage lots of client systems remotely. The bug allowed for critical ATM attacks, adversary in the middle, where an attacker gets between two communicating parties. In this case, they could intercept and manipulate software updates pushed out through Automate, basically hijacking the trust users have in their own management software.
Nasty. And the most direct illustration of ignoring instructions, the Cisco devices.
Absolute perfect illustration. Hackers exploited a known vulnerability in SNMP.
That's a network management protocol?
Yeah, used for managing devices like routers and switches. They targeted this flaw specifically on older, unprotected Cisco networking devices.
Older ones? Why?
Because those are the ones organizations forget about. They weren't targeting the shiny, new, actively managed firewalls. They went after the older gear, maybe sitting in a wiring closet somewhere that hadn't been updated in years.
Because it was out of sight, out of mind.
Precisely. And what did they install? A Linux rootkit?
Explain rootkit again. Sounds bad.
It is bad. A rootkit is malware designed specifically to hide its own presence while giving the attacker deep, persistent access to the very core, the root level of the device's operating system. It's about stealth and long-term control.
So they got hidden, persistent access because the instruction patch your old gear or get rid of it was just ignored.
Demonstrably refused. And the consequence was error. A total security compromise allowing covert long-term surveillance or control. The entire digital threat landscape, really, acts as a direct feedback loop on whether or not we follow basic essential instructions.
Okay. Let's try and bring all these threads together. We've seen Thessaloniki, right? Ambition hitting fragility. We've seen the U.S. political deadlock causing real financial pain. And we've seen massive digital systems failing because basic upkeep was ignored.
A clear pattern emerging across different domains.
So how does today's guidance, the proverb, help us understand this universal pattern of things going wrong?
Well, today's guidance comes from the book of Proverbs, chapter 10, verse 17. And it reads, "He is in the way of life that keepeth instruction. But he that refuseth reproof erreth."
Okay. He is in the way of life that keepeth instruction.
Think of way of life as the path to success, stability, positive progress. And that path is maintained by keepeth instruction, by adhering to the known rules, the best practices, the necessary protocols.
But that part seems straightforward enough. Follow the rules, things go well.
It seems obvious, doesn't it? But it's the second half of the proverb that really diagnoses the problem we're seeing everywhere.
But he that refuseth reproof erreth. Okay, what's reproof exactly?
Reproof means correction. It means a warning. It's essential guidance, often delivered because a previous action or the current state of a system is flawed or insufficient. It's pointing out the error before it causes disaster.
And to refuse it.
To refuse that correction, that warning, is to choose, consciously or through negligence, to continue down that flawed path. And the result, you erreth.
You make a mistake, you fail, you stray from the path of life.
Exactly. You make the error, often the monumental error, that leads directly to the crisis, the failure, the breakdown.
Okay, so this raises the crucial question for our deep dive today. Looking back at everything we discussed, Thessaloniki, the U.S., the security alerts, where did we see systems, organizations, maybe even governments, err specifically because they refused necessary instruction, refused reproof?
The tech and security field gives us the most stark, the most literal examples. We just talked about it. The Cisco rootkit exploitation.
Oh, the older devices?
The instruction, the reproof, had been issued years before. Patch this specific SNMP vulnerability, update your devices, decommission obsolete hardware that can't be patched. Security experts shouted this guidance from the rooftops.
So the organizations that got hit?
Were precisely the ones that kept those older, unprotected networking devices running. They effectively refused the reproof, refused the instruction, and the result was immediate quantifiable error. A complete security compromise via a hidden rootkit. Direct cause and effect.
That's crystal clear. Can we apply that same logic elsewhere? What about the physical infrastructure, like the metro here?
Absolutely. Look at the Thessaloniki metro failure. The instruction for running any complex transit system, especially one undergoing expansion, is rigorous preventative maintenance. It's replacing aging components before they fail. It's thorough system testing.
So the unexpected halt.
That sudden stop due to a system failure strongly suggests that the instruction for proper timely maintenance was, in some way, refused or maybe just delayed too long. Pushed aside by other pressures, perhaps. And the result was direct operational error, impacting thousands of people.
Okay, infrastructure makes sense. What about the political level, the U.S. shutdown?
That provides maybe the highest level example of refusing instruction. What is the fundamental instruction for responsible democratic governance, especially in a system with divided power?
Compromise. Agree on a budget. Keep the government running.
Exactly. Agree, compromise, manage the nation's finances by passing a budget. That is the basic institutional instruction, the reproof against deadlock. When political factions refuse that instruction due to partisanship, the error isn't some abstract political science concept.
No, the error becomes real pain for people.
Real pain, inflicted directly on the citizenry, rising healthcare costs through the ACA impact, financial destabilization for federal workers like that single mother in Colorado forced to dip into retirement funds. The error is tangible and damaging.
So this ancient proverb, it really does work like a diagnostic tool, doesn't it?
It seems to, yeah. It shows that whether the failure is a catastrophic industrial disaster in Tennessee, a suspicious fire in a municipal building here in Greece, or a 250,000 critical network gateways exposed online globally, the root cause is rarely a complete mystery.
It almost always chases back.
Almost always traces back to a point where necessary instruction, where corrective action, where vital reproof was dismissed, ignored, refused. Keeping instruction leads to stability, the way of life. Refusing correction. That guarantees error. Hashtag V. Conclusion and final thought.
Okay, let's do a quick wrap-up then. We've covered a lot of ground. From Thessaloniki's local struggles, that balancing act between ambition and fragility.
Right, the metro, the AI plans versus the underlying issues.
Through the U.S. landscape, political deadlock, human costs, industrial failures.
And the geopolitical tensions simmering away.
And then deep into the high-stakes world of cybersecurity, where ignoring basic instructions has massive consequences.
Huge consequences. And the theme tying it all together, the incredibly high price paid when instructions, especially for basic maintenance, upkeep, and accountability, are just plain refused.
So for our clip of the day, we need to pick the one item that really hammers home the sheer scale of error that comes from refusing that reproof. What stands out most?
It's tough. There were some shockers. But I think for sheer scale and the criticality of the systems involved, it has to be the F5 BGIP exposure.
Yeah, I agree. That number is just staggering. Okay, clip of the day it is. We're highlighting the critical nature of the more than 266,000 F5 BIGIP instances exposed online following that security breach disclosure.
That single statistic represents hundreds of thousands of organizations, potentially, that failed to follow the most basic instruction. Patch your critical network front door.
Leaving massive global infrastructure just vulnerable. It's a stunning, frankly terrifying example of systemic error born from negligence.
It really demonstrates that our technological progress, our ability to build complex systems, often outpaces our discipline in maintaining them properly.
Which leads us right into our final provocative thought for you, the listener, to chew on.
Go for it.
We see governments, cities, companies investing billions in these amazing future-forward innovations, right? Signing huge AI partnerships like the one here in Thessaloniki, building massive new infrastructure like the Telemaria metro extension.
Pushing the boundaries.
Absolutely. Yet at the exact same time, we see this persistent global failure to follow the most mundane, yet utterly critical instructions. Patching existing systems, funding basic government services reliably, enforcing fundamental industrial safety rules.
The boring stuff that keeps everything running.
Exactly. So here's the question. If refusing instruction inevitably leads to error, often catastrophic error, how long can our modern society keep pushing for faster, more complex innovation when the foundational basics, the upkeep, the maintenance, the accountability are so continually and widely dismissed?
It feels unsustainable, doesn't it? The technological future we're building is only ever going to be as stable as its weakest, most ignored patch.
Something to think about. Adios, peoples.